Absolutely, and many thanks for staying with us. Welcome back. My good name is Brian Sako. Find me at Brian Sako 101, and we have asked you an interesting question. We'll be sampling your feedback as we continue with this conversation right here. The question is, how do you achieve your financial goals? Isn't it so easy? But we'll get to that, okay? So I'll continue to interact with us on the hashtag, which is Y in the morning. My good name once again is at Brian Sako 101 on social media. No underscore at all, but at Y254 channel on the hashtag Y in the morning. I remember something similar to this conversation. There's a singer who said, situations will always arise, but you gotta be smart about it. And when it comes to matters, money and finances, I believe it's a very imperative and integral part of your normal day-to-day lives, because you can't do life without money, and that literally touches in the whole entire facet of matters finances. Now the new year is right here. We are literally on the fourth week. Yes, fourth week. I was thinking it was the third. Okay. Have you set yourself New Year's resolutions? Does it include money and being financially stable? And is there such a thing as being financially stable, by the way? I had to ask that question to a couple of previous guests, and some of them said financial stability is a mindset. But in this conversation now, we are delving into achieving and fulfilling those financial goals. And how do you arrive on that journey? Our guests will help us to arrive in that conversation. And I'm being joined live in the studio by Absalom Gusia. He's a financial advisor sitting next to me, alongside Martin Javan. He's a public speaking coach. Karibuni sana. Good morning to you and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Lazima iwe kwa mahali. Somebody was telling me inafaishe the third week of Jan. But someone else was saying it hadi at April, yeah?
Extend mpaka February.
Right. Oh, inaisha February?
Yeah. Valentine's.
Please, mark Valentine's, February. Apple. Happy New Year, dead. But now back to the conversation. When you talk about matters finances, and I love the fact that at some point off the air, you had mentioned to me about financial literacy. And I remember, I think it could have been last year but one. There's one of the guests who I interviewed here. He was telling me that when it comes to our African, traditional culture, or literally how our system is set up, you're taught to go to school, high school, finish, get to uni, graduate, get a job. But then in between, you interact with money. And there's a point, he said, start giving your children money, the earlier the better. As long as immediately they say, Baba, Mama, start engaging with notes. Tell them this is a 50 bob note. This is 20 shillings, a 20 shilling coin. That way, they get to interact with money really fast. But then most of us meet money, like maybe, let's say, a large sum of money in higher learning institutions, yeah? So you don't have the skills on how to manage the money. You don't know if you are going to keep it or receive it and spend it, and then request for more. Or as well, if you have to work, you get paid. But then come back to the question is, what is the biggest challenge when it comes to money or finances with our youth? Now that both of us are young people, from you as an expert in the financial sector.
Yeah, mostly, thank you once more. Mostly the issue that comes around is the belief systems that surround money. There's a lot of misconception about this and that and how we should go around it. And I think even what they believe about money shapes the understanding and how they handle money, right? Yeah. Because if sometimes they, you need to save for you to have money in the future, but youths have proven saving is not really an issue. They save for weekends. So just saving for the wrong purposes, right? So what is the reason for making certain financial goals, right? And how much are they allocating? In this era, budgeting, they don't know how to do their budgets. They don't have they don't have budgeting. They don't have definitive short-term and long-term goals that they can rely on, right?
Long-term.
If they're myopic on how they're going around their finances, they are totally going to suffer in the future. And if parents are saying that when they can talk, now you just give them 50 bob, right? I think for anyone to handle money, they first need to understand how that money even reached their hands in the first place, right? And it's not something that they should take lightly, right? Because I believe money is some form of force, right? It is so powerful. And
do you believe money is a mindset as well?
Yeah,
in terms of that somebody say being rich and wealthy is also a mindset.
it has to begin in your head. If you don't take it seriously in your head, then even when you have that money, it will not be of much substance. Yeah. So as you go around money and all matters, parents, youths, how they interact with money. First, what comes into their mind when someone says, "Here's 1,000 shillings"? What goes through your mind, right? What am I going to use this money for?
Right.
Was I in need of this money when I'm being given, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm to retain this money, what is the purpose to which I'm retaining this money, right?
Yeah.
So there's a whole spectrum that you need to look at,
Right.
when you're dealing with matters money. And I think we should never be short-sighted when it comes to things money. Money has started wars. Money has torn apart families, friends, brothers. And I think it's something that financial literacy is very, very important this present age. The world is moving very fast, and you need to remain relevant for you to be effective in this fast-pacing world.
Right.
In terms of how the global economics is working, in terms of how the new trends are happening here and there, and how you should handle everything as you go around it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've said the biggest challenge facing youth finances is?
First is financial literacy.
Financial literacy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe they're not well informed. Yeah. There's a lot of misconception on how they should go around it. Right. And when there is, in some cases, there's some form of literacy. I believe it's not in depth. It is not well explained.
Right.
So there's a short-sightedness on how they should go around it. Yeah. So I believe if everyone can take initiative, or in a way we can have like civic studies to teach people about money and how they should handle it. I think that's how we can go about it.
Right. Right. Interesting. So you guys ensure that you sharpen your skills when it comes to interacting with money. At some point, I remember, I think I interviewed Khalif Cairo here in 2022, and I asked him, what is your relationship with money? And he told me you don't chase after money, but we'll come to that in just a bit. Let me get to you, Martin. When you interact with young people and you're teaching them how to be confident in terms, because public speaking is majorly about confidence and the info, like for example, what Absalom is saying to educators here, you need some level of confidence so that you inspire with assertiveness and authority so that the young person who is listening to you can get to be expressive. This whole conversation as well is all about the confidentiality or having that skill of you being able to pursue this facet of your life, because I believe, like I mentioned in my introduction, your financial goals are part of your New Year's resolutions, and I believe as young people as well, you should be aiming towards, achieving a certain amount of, let's say, assets that can also translate to money. So when you interact with young people, what are the notable things that you would say, this area, especially when it comes to a facet of finances, I think there's a missing gap, there's a missing link. He's mentioned financial literacy, that I believe is the biggest challenge in terms of how you interact with finances.
All right. So inside of the communication space, let's call it communication space, because what we do mostly is teaching people how to speak, not just for competitions when you have like public speaking competitions or things like that, but it's also for skills that can advance their careers. Like if you want to be an anchor like yourself, if you want to get into sales, marketing, it's all about direct communication. So something that I come to realize even as we interact in all these spaces is that down to the most basic point, for you to be able to plan for the money, you at least need to make the money. It needs to start from there. The money needs to be made. Yeah. So how well can these people communicate? And that's the biggest problem. People are not able to put themselves in spaces where they're able to use this skill of communication for them to be able to get money. And it's not really that hard, because it's something as simple as learning how to write copy. If you're doing graphic design, what words are you putting in the graphics that make sense? How do you place these words? If you're doing sales, how are you speaking with people? How are you interacting with individuals? there's this trend among young people where everybody wants to go to networking events. Everybody anataka kusema, oh, I'm going to do networking at this event and whatnot. But what types of interactions are you having with these individuals? What is the value of these interactions? People are not able to have proper conversations that are valuable, that are conversations that can drive them towards financial literacy, towards financial advancement, towards you know, realizing some sort of financial benefit towards themselves. And this is the biggest problem with young people. We've entered into a TikTok age, as much as it was banned in the USA. We have
it was
entered
reinstated, actually.
Oh, actually, well, it was banned yesterday. Apparently, it's back. It's that easy. So our minds are so into short-term, you know, value that we're not able to look at things that can give us long-term value.
Long-term, yes.
Like our minds are so triggered to short conversations, short, quick snippets, 30 seconds conversations.
It's like adrenaline type of experiences.
Yes, and that's just so sad because for you to be able to have conversations that have proper value, you cannot just have a 30-minute chat. It's not all about elevator pitches 24/7. Sometimes you need to have those long conversations that are much more valuable, so that even these individuals who you're interacting with can see the value that you have to offer past a rehearsed 30-second conversation. I think learning this is really important if you are to advance yourself in the financial space, because as I said, you first have to make money for you to plan for it. If you cannot make this money, there's no point in planning, because there's nothing to plan for. So if you are to have this conversation, unfortunately we are not very privileged, as you said, to have interacted with a lot of money as young people, which I think is what Absalom is saying, is a thing that should start from a very young age, and you should start, you know, learning these things. But just because we are past that age doesn't mean we can't have programs that teach people the skills, the skills of planning, the skills of, you know, learning how to invest the right way, but even down to the most basic way, learning how to communicate, learning how to interact with individuals who have this money that you want to tap into and to access. I think both of these things are very important, even as young people are growing into the financial space.
And maybe since in the spirit of you being a public speaker, I believe you're also big at helping people arrive at a journey or at a point where, and Absalom, I'd like you to react on this, arriving at a place where you're able to achieve some of your set goals. Like, do you have, as a person who has a vision of becoming someone meaningful or an expert in a certain forte or profession, do you have a dream? And how can you, the dream can be written on paper. Of course, most people say, please write down your goals and dreams, so that, you know, even the Bible says, write down your biggest dreams and, you know, I'll help you achieve them. But then for a young person who set a financial goal, I believe, how do you arrive here at now, let's make this dream work? And now let's give, for example, for instance, because I'm coming to you, Absalom. For instance, you now have money. Maybe you've been given money, or for let's give an example of a student who is in a higher learning institution. Maybe it's help or just pocket money from your guardian, and it's a good amount that you can spend for your normal expenditures, and maybe if you can now save. So how do you arrive at maybe let's say by August you're envisioning you should be having, like, let's say $500,000 in your account. How do you walk through that journey? And maybe here we want to talk about your spending habits, some of the cropping up events that just, I'd say, anomalously come up.
Okay. When it comes to that, I think I will need to go back to budgeting. I think I will need to go back to budgeting. I usually have an Excel sheet, right? So in this Excel sheet, I have the total amount of money I'm earning, then the percentages, right? So I'm saying I'm giving 10% for tithe, for instance. I'm using this much money for rent. And then I have a percentage of what I'm saving. Then I have a percentage of how much money I can have in my account, maybe for my friends, right? If I usually have like a 5% set aside if a friend needs help, right? If the 5% happens to run out, I will not use any other, I will not take it from another savings account, because that's what I had allocated if such a thing comes up, right? So you find that planning for your money effectively and planning for every possible scenario that might occur, it sets you ahead of the rest, right? Because what I've realized is when people set up their budgeting or when they're planning for something, they have not looked at everything that might come to be or might come to be in the future, right? So you need to like break down, first find out how much money do you have. For instance, on my spreadsheet, it's not like limited to a certain monthly income or what, right? It's usually, if the money comes in, the percentages go into effect, right? So if it goes in, I'm like, this 10% is for, right? Then I'm using this 40% for expenditure. This is how much money I'm saving. So you find that it is accumulating over time, right? So like, for example, long term, I want to buy a house. I want to have a house in maybe a German machine, you know, yeah, something expensive. Yeah, things like that don't just come around. You really need to plan and know how to go around it, right? So you find that financial discipline will be key in this area. Yeah, I can't go around using the money that I've saved to buy my car, helping out to friends, right? Saying, I have this emergency, I don't know what. Right. Yeah. They will not even need my help if they would have just been disciplined with their money. Like, if I'm to ask you, like you yourself, you know how much money comes your way, right? If you had set a certain discipline of how you're going to handle this money, I believe you will not be in such a mess, right? That's why, for example, you have to think of things like health, right? You know, it has been a big issue. It has been a big issue in this country. Yeah? If I get sick, then what happens? Yeah. So planning ahead is like you subscribe for premiums and you have set a certain amount in your income. Like this is how much money I'm going to pay for insurance just in case I get sick. So that is covered. You don't have to think about it. You know, we spend a lot of money on things like medication. Yeah. Right. And it is unavoidable. You really need to be healthy. You can't. If you are sick, you're just sick. Yeah. There's no way out of it unless you had planned for it ahead, right? Now, if you can plan for the nitty-gritties, that means you can be able to plan for the bigger future, right? Yeah. Yeah. If you are having like a long-term goal, then if you are having a long-term goal, then you need to make sure that you have money for that long-term goal, right? Yeah. So you can't just say you're getting 1,000 bob, you're spending 500. Right. That is crazy. Right? If you are getting 1,000 bob, you spend 400. And the 600 divided into another. You know, it is accumulating. Money will accumulate over time, right?
Is that the 50? Is it 50, 30, 20, or the 40? Is it 40, 20, 30, 10, or 40, 20, 10? Is it the rule? One of those where you're dividing your money from the essentials. And up to the savings, and I think the 50-30 has the charity factor to it.
Something of the sort. You really need to divide your money so that certain expenditures may not spill over into another savings account.
Let's say utilities and now.
If it's savings and the expenditure, they should never meet. Right. They should never meet. If you do that, you're going into a crisis. Because if you're going into your savings, that means you're lagging behind on a goal that you had set. That means you need more money to cover what you have taken from your savings. Right. Yeah, and you need more money now to get back into what you have spent into. Yeah. That means that means you're even living beyond your means. Right. In that sense. Yeah.
Yeah, living beyond your means, I think I'd also like you to explain maybe, we can give examples of someone who's adding 50 and 100,000. How should their life be now that we're just starting the new year? But let me come to you, Martin. For a young person who's watching this conversation, and I'd say they're caught between a rock and a hard place where, for example, you're in a higher learning institution, any tertiary, university, whatever, and your parent is giving you something for upkeep. What would be the best financial advice that you can give this youngin so that by the time you're exiting that institution, you have something set aside for yourself? But then you mentioned something about just living for short-time life, like some sort of adrenaline kind of life that's experienced in higher learning institutions where it's about Friday and it's YOLO. In fact, there's a meme I was checking out yesterday. Somebody was saying, I'm caught between saving my money and YOLO, living once, because we are young, and they say each day comes with its own blessing. What would be the best advice you tell this young person, this Gen Z?
Something very, very simple that people don't realize is actually very simple, which is just learning a skill. The thing is, your parent is not going to give you a lot of money, and even if let's argue, a majority of the young people are from public institutions. So it's not like your parents are the richest. They are not ministers. They are not white people from I don't know where. You're given a very basic amount of income for upkeep, and that's okay. That is enough for upkeep. But because we are young people who want to be extravagant with our lives, and we want to have very long weekends, 4-day weekends, 5-day weekends, that's okay, as long as you have a way to finance these 5-day weekends. If that's possible for you, then you can live however you want. But the biggest problem is a lot of young people don't have ways to have 5-day weekends. They want to have 5-day weekends in theory, but when it comes to the pocket, they don't have the capacity for 5-day weekends. So I'm not going to sit here and be hypocritical and tell you not to go out and have fun. Guys, go out and have fun. However, use this principle. Work hard first and then play hard. Because when you work hard, then the playing hard is justified. If you work hard, you will have the amount of money that you require to play hard and still have good financial plans. If, as you were saying, I want to have $500,000 by the time August is reaching, the biggest question is, how much money do I make right now? If the answer is 0, then there is no way that I can continue having 5-day weekends and I want $500,000.
But I think maybe the question is, how much money do you interact with on a daily basis? Because you also have to consider your daily interactions with money. Because I believe 90% of young people interact at least with a certain amount of money per day, because you have to buy those internet, bundles or bandwidth. Most of them are on TikTok. Social media is now a big thing, in as much as, they're working on how to restrict it. They're always on those platforms, yeah? So would you tell them from that 500, Bob, or let's say maybe, I'm sure there's those who are also given upkeep weekly. Like maybe your dad sends you or your mom sends you, let's say 5K monthly or maybe weekly, depending on the level of life that you guys are living. Yes, if you were to help them save from that 5K monthly or weekly, how would you break it down to them so that they don't get themselves into crisis, financial crisis?
All right. So first of all, live down as much as you can. If you're getting let's say you're getting 5K weekly, that means you need to account for lunch if you're going for classes. If you're going for early morning classes like 7, 8 a.m. and your classes are also ending in the evening because you have like club meetings, debates, or whatever other club meetings you have, that means if you're going back home or you're going back to the hostel, you'll be going back pretty late. If you live alone, that means you also need to account for breakfast and lunch that you also have to cater for yourself. So I think biggest thing is to just try and live down as much as possible. If you can live in a hostel, that means your breakfast and your supper are catered for. So you have to now be concerned about things like lunch only and maybe some snacks in between or things like that. So that means you're able to save a bit more money. You're not using as much. If you're living alone or you're living like outside of hostels where things like breakfast and supper are catered for, then try and not be as extravagant with these things. You don't need to eat a full loaf of bread in the morning. It's not very necessary. You can still live on like 3 slices. I think bread expires in like 2 or 3 days. So you should be able to spread that 65 shillings across like 2 days. It should be enough. Try and live down as much as possible so that this amount that you're saving, you're able to put it into significant investments. I think the biggest thing I always say is, especially now as young people, try and learn as much skills as you can that can make you money. Learn graphic design. It's pretty simple. You can learn it in a week and then sell it to some business around your school that can, help you to get an extra 1,000 shillings. So you were given 5,000, you made yourself 1,000. That's a bit of money you've added to your budget. It doesn't have to be that extreme. Learn small skills that can help you to make a bit of money, a bit of extra money than what you're getting. I
Yeah.
think these things, as Absalom was saying, will always accumulate. It might not look like much, getting 500 shillings for a design, but if you end up doing 10 designs during the entire week, that's an extra 5,000 that you did not have that you now have.
Yeah.
I think biggest thing apart from just saving is also upskilling so that you're able to continue making more. Saving again only happens when you have money. So I think you're able to save more if you're making more. So if I'm able to save more money, then I'm able to reach my financial goal faster.
Right.
So at the end of the day, whatever money you're getting, live down, save it, upskill, make more money. It's a very simple process.
Yeah, interesting. Absalom, I'm coming to you. I once had a student say that the first, I think they said their first car, the money that they bought, they used to buy the car was from university savings. And that again still takes us to the conversation about the savings culture. That still draws back to financial literacy. That still again talks about sources of revenue. And I love the fact that you shared having multiple sources of revenue will help you generate something. We had pointed out about living either above or below your means. Like let me try to use an example of a person who's earning 50K. And then also a person earning 100K. How are the lives of these two people? Let's just imagine that Gen Zs, because I believe that Gen Zs were even earning close to 500,000 in this country, maybe through other sources of revenue.
Yeah. So when you're looking at those kind of brackets, right? You need to see that both of them can be in a crisis. Let's say in this instance, if the one earning 100K decides to pay rent that's 50K, they're already in a crisis. Yeah, if the one who earns 50K wants to pay rent that's like 25K or half of that and maybe 40K, they're already in a crisis. So when you look at this thing, like it's not really about how much money they are earning, it's how they are spending this money, right?
Expenditure.
Okay. If you can manage the amount of money that you have, that means your inflows will be more valuable.
Right.
Your inflows will be more valuable. If, for example, the person earning 100K, they decide they're going to get a house that's like 30K or 25K, right? So they have a whole chunk remaining. They're saying, I'm saving this much. They have a lot to save, right? They have a lot of money to go into maybe car insurance, health insurance. And they have, so they can even if they are saving up for their children's school, if they are saving up for.
Let's imagine it just a single Gen Z lady or gent, earning 100K. If you had to break their life down in terms of now, so that they have a chunk to save and these other funds.
If a single person, a Gen Z like that is earning, they should live a very comfortable life. I mean, that's more than enough.
Rent, I believe rent, you mentioned rent, and we've seen, I think we've seen it with the celebrities or public figures who they've had debts. I don't want to mention anyone right now because, hey, there are situations that arise, but then you realize this guy was making some good amount of money, but then the location they chose to go to is the one depleting the money. Would you call that a financial mistake as well? And how would you advise them to get back on track?
Yeah, that's basically now what we call now living beyond your means. You can do not pay rent that's like more than half of what you earn. That is crazy. And if you do not have a stable income, estimate how much are you most likely to always have and not be in a crisis, right? So if like these celebrities are going for a house that's like 90,000, and then they are not sure if they'll be getting more than that, they should get like 60% more, so for them to sustain them in that house. So they're not thinking of it long term. Secondly, if they're single and they're young, why do they need such a bigger house? Why do they really need to go to that location? Don't we have more affordable places to live where they can just live comfortable lives? I think what's the role of social media, what it's doing even to the young people. It's showing a certain lifestyle that many want to emulate, right? But before they realize that they cannot sustain that kind of lifestyle, it's already too late.
Yeah, you're already in crisis.
You're already in crisis. And also, let me go back to, you need to know how much money is coming in. Yeah.
Right.
How much money is coming in, and what means do you use? Are you an entrepreneur, or are you employed formally?
Yeah.
Because because an entrepreneur is exposed to more risk.
Yeah.
And their income fluctuates.
Right.
Yeah. While a person who is employed in a corporate sector, they have a fixed income, and there's some form of comfort in being employed formally than an entrepreneur. Yeah. So majority of Kenyans, you cannot say they are formally employed, they're entrepreneurs, and even those the young people.
Sure, they are hustlers.
Yeah, they're hustlers.
Yeah.
You can say that. But over time, the term hustler has been misused, and you're wondering how he's an hustler. Anyway, back, most of the young people are entrepreneurs. That means what they're doing to get money is not, a certain amount cannot be maintained over time. Find that it is fluctuating.
Right.
Yeah. But in all that, there is an estimate that at least they can say every month I'll have this much. Yeah. Every month I can have this much, and it is sustainable. Yeah. And as I go back to when I began, I said, have, like for instance, I have a spreadsheet. All the money that comes in, I record. Yeah. And I break it down. Yeah. So if you have a certain estimate, that means you know how much money you can pay for rent, how much money you can pay for food, what kind of lifestyle you can sustain, right? If you're planning on a weekend to go and meet up some friends, you should also have a saving scheme for that, so that there's no spillover. Yeah. And when it comes to the corporate, I think in the present age, I realized most people work in the corporate. It's difficult for them to scale up and do something significant with their income. I feel like immediately the money
tied up to.
Yeah, immediately the money comes in, it's done. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think even in the corporate sector, I think they should be more disciplined, but it's unfortunate that they are not. Yeah. But if they can plan, can also have some long-term goals and say this is how much money I'm using. Because this is how much money I'm earning. Yeah.
So you know how much is coming in and how much is going out. Let me come back to you, Martin. It's also difficult whether to achieve your financial goals if you're not intentional about it. And I want you to bring in your public speaking, and because I believe that's as well, it's like some sort of like a motivation. How do you motivate this young person to be fixated on having this mealy by the end of, let's say, towards end of the year, or now half the year, let's say towards June, July. Anyways, June, July is historical now since last year. But you're envisioning to be there. How do you intentionally set this financial goal and let it manifest?
Interesting thing that you'd ask that question. There's a video I saw yesterday, and it was a quote. I can't remember who exactly the quote was from, but it was a podcast, and individuals were having conversations around. They were having a conversation around this quote, and the quote went something around like, "You're not really feeling the urgency of this matter. That's why you're only putting in half the effort, and that's why you'll never get to where you want to be." And that thing really clicked, because it just comes down to even this whole idea we have of setting goals for the year, having New Year resolutions. Everybody is in the gym. First week of January. Yeah, everybody is going to the
social
gym.
Media is flooded with selfies.
People were running in the morning. People were waking up at 5 a.m. 5 a.m. club, hashtag, I don't know what. Young people are crazy. That's exactly what people are doing for the first 2 weeks of January. Yeah. And then from there, the hashtag started reducing. People started not being in the moment. They stopped doing what was necessary for them to get to where they want to be. Not that they no longer have those goals. I think everybody wants to have like a muscular build, or they want to just look fit. Everybody wants to make some amount of money. Everybody wants to move out of their parents' house. Everybody wants to own a German machine, or for us who like USA cars, some of us want Fords and things like that. Everybody has their own plan, and everybody still wants those things. but the motivation to do all those things went away. Because for you to get to where you want to be, it's not about motivation. Everybody that has gotten there, all the big names that you're seeing on the Forbes 100, on the Forbes 30 over 30, or 30 under 30, such
40.
lists, 40 over 40, 40 under 40, such lists, they are not people who got there because they were motivated to continue working. You will be motivated Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday will kick you down.
Yeah.
So it's about discipline. And this is why I talk about creating systems. In public speaking, when I'm teaching people how to communicate, how to learn this thing, I teach you to create a system that allows you to continuously advance your skills.
Right, scaling.
Yes. It's about creating a system that will allow you to advance yourself. Even in financial literacy, even in achieving your financial goals, it's about having a system that will help you to continue going forward even when you're not motivated.
And how do you create this system? Do you have to study your environs? Do you have to join a community of people? Or it's a man's solo journey?
All these are factors that you can engage in. Simplest thing, and this is something I learned also when I was trying to figure out my own path sometime last year. I read Atomic Habits. I think I read 5 chapters, and then I realized I don't like reading books. So just looked for a summary for the book, a video summary, and I watched like a 40-minute summary of what exactly it talks about. And I learned that your habits, whether it's financial habits, whether it's certain goals that you want to create, certain habits that you want to introduce or do away with, are governed by 3 factors. One is your general environment. What exactly are you seeing around you? What things are within your environment that allow you to continue doing what you want or to start doing what you want?
Right.
2, what things are in your environment that are stopping you from doing what you want? How hard is it for you to get to your goal? So, and the third thing is how easy is it from a general perception of things for you to do whatever you want to do, the new habit that you want to create, how easy is it for you to do this? And so it talked about largely priming your environment for these habits to either be formed or for them to be stopped. And it talked about a very basic principle. Make it hard for you to do that bad habit and make it easy for you to do that good habit. And talked about things like habit stacking. For example, if I'm waking up like 5 a.m. in the morning, I'd want to, I'm not a morning person. I don't like waking up in the morning. But if I was to train
Typical
myself.
Gen Z.
Yeah, that is very, very true. I sleep at like 1 or 2. So if I want to train myself on waking up in the morning, I'd do something else that is something that I like doing in that morning so that I get fulfillment from waking up in the morning. For example, I'm a gamer. So if I wake up in the morning, I tell myself, if I'm able to wake up at 8 a.m. today, then at 12 to 1, I have the freedom to play as much games as I want to play. Right? So that's an incentive that I've given myself to wake up in the morning. Because my idea is, I want to reach my financial goals, I want to create a new habit, but there is no incentive for me to do it. Like
so it's self-motivation. It's like you're rewarding yourself for being in the process. Okay.
Making such things, adding such things to your systems just makes it easy for you to have this habit.
To make you love the new goal that you set for yourself. Interesting. Let me throw it back to you now. They say don't just save, invest. But then now, with this 500, Bob, where are you investing? But then I want us to delve into what are some of the options that are there for young people. We call them Gen Zs nowadays. Everyone is a Gen Z, by the way. Yeah, what are the options that are available for them in this digital era? Somebody was talking to me about blockchain technology, money markets, cryptocurrency, and whatnot. So how do you move away from saving to investing and now getting other multiple sources of revenue?
Oh, okay. As we get into that, as what Javan was saying, like basically, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? Yeah. If you can be disciplined with the money that you're getting, your percentages allocating them to the right thing, that means now you can even go into saving, into investment. You know, the problem is usually they can't be disciplined to how they save their money, so they never have money to invest.
Yeah, I've heard somebody say they've saved, but they just don't know where to invest. And I'm like, what? You know, is it possible? You
Yeah.
have enough savings that can start you anything, but you're lost between a rock and a hard place on what to invest in.
I have met such people. They have a lot of money, and they're telling me, I don't know how to invest this money. Yeah. So you have to take them into a class. I'm telling them that you have options. You have financial markets, capital markets. You have things like cryptocurrency, right? So when you're going to financial markets, those are money markets, right? These are extremely volatile markets. You can go in. For example, let's go for the safer options first. Yeah, the treasury bills, right? They are issued like you can have like those are mature after 3 months, and 6 months, 12 months, right?
Yeah.
And usually they declare the interest when they are declaring these bonds, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
So if you're having like something like 200,000, for instance, and you decide, I'm not, because you have like 3 types of investors. You have those who are risk neutral. You have those that have the risk seekers, and those who are risk averse. So
risk averse, maybe you can explain.
Those that are risk averse, they don't like risk. Yeah, they will go for low risk investments. Are like, this is too risky, I can't go for it. Those who are risk neutral, they maybe it's risky, but I can take a chance. But then there are those that just love risk. Yeah,
those are the serial entrepreneurs now and investors.
Yeah,
like whether it flops or not, I gave it my best shot. Okay.
Yeah, they are all in, and we found that in this, those who are risk seekers, sometimes it can even just go ahead to. Right. It's like luck, like purely luck, and maybe you just need to pray about it, because the financial markets can be brutal. It can be brutal.
I've had conversations from forex trading. They're saying, "Hey, today the market is down." You know, somebody was talking about the bull market. You know, some of these things I believe they need more training and exposure as well.
Yeah. So, for instance, if you have like, let's say, 20,000, and you're looking to invest, don't go into forex. You lose that money, and with forex you can lose it in 5 minutes. Maybe you have saved that money for 6 months.
Right.
You lose it in 5 minutes. Yeah, if you are not willing, if you are not okay with losing such money in 5 minutes, don't go for it, right? Yeah. Just be risk averse. Use that. We have things like SACCOs. Yeah. The good thing about SACCOs is that the money accumulates over time, and they usually pay dividends like to those who have savings in the SACCOs, and then in terms of issuing debt, SACCOs are very generous with the issuing debts, and if you have your savings there, you can get double of the amount that you have saved, right? Okay. So you can with SACCOs you can begin from saving from 100 shillings, 500, 1,000, like little money. I think by doing that, if you make your money less accessible to how you can misuse it, it's easier for you to invest it somewhere else. Yeah, you can't just save in your M-Pesa and you're seeing the M-Pesa balance every time. Sure. Yeah, that would be crazy, right?
Okay. Let me get to Martin. I'll come to you and let's talk about debt shortly, because we are also running out of time. Yeah. Martin, when you're setting your goal, you're envisioning yourself to be at that place, and I think the previous guest was here. He talked about mentality. Yeah, that was in politics somehow-ish. But mentality is everywhere. You know, even money as well is mentality. It's a mindset. Yeah. True. So most of us set goals, but maybe your heart is not there. Your faith is not there. You can set goals for it to look good on paper. Yeah, everybody's talking about New Year's resolutions. You talked about people just flocking the gym, and everybody is doing mirror selfies and water bottles to just fulfill that there's an outburst of people heading to the gym to look fit, but you're just doing it because everybody else is doing it. Yeah. So how can we change this culture of group mentality where it's now you, if you're setting to be a millionaire by end of the year, or having $500,000 by June, July, August-ish, you're heading there swiftly without, because I also believe the spirituality comes into play maybe, like you just believing that you can achieve this dream. Somebody was talking about you. Most of us are afraid of success and failing at the same time. So there's both fear of success and fear of failure. But this is all in one person who has written down a goal of having a milli in June, July.
Three things determine whether someone is successful with what they want to do or not. One is how quickly they can bypass their dopamine. Dopamine is the hormone it's a feel-good hormone. It is a thing that is produced when you're setting your goals. It is actually most produced not even when you're doing things that will lead you to your goal, but when you're doing the goal setting. When you're writing down, when you're visualizing. This is a time where you feel like you're doing the most towards what you want. But when you're doing the actions themselves, the actions are not as fulfilling because there isn't as much dopamine production when you're doing the actions.
Right.
So this is why people get stuck on the planning phase. This is why people do a lot of planning but very little execution. Because in your mind, you've already visualized yourself as having achieved that goal. So you're feeling very nice about it. You're feeling like, if I'm able to do this very quickly, I'm able to get to where I want to be.
Right.
However, sometimes we usually downplay the process, and the process ends up being very, very difficult. So
you want the process to trust you, not you trust the process.
No, that doesn't work, right? So the second factor then becomes your fear of failure, as you were saying. The biggest problem that we have as a society is that we are a society. What that means is we are individuals who are so socialized. We exist in a society where there's social media. So you're able to see, oh, my friend is doing this. You see someone who you were with in high school, all of a sudden is driving. They have a very nice job. They're making a lot of money. They're going on trips. Meanwhile, you are still in the same place that you were in when you finished uni. Nothing has changed 2 years down the line. You still have your degree. You're working from here to there, no stable job, but somebody else is succeeding very, very much. And so there's a lot of that pressure for you to want to succeed. And we then tend to take routes that are not very clever. For example, as you were saying, Forex is a very volatile market that you can lose a lot of money in a very small amount of time. But the inverse is true as well. You can make a lot of money in a very small amount of time. And people focus more on that side of Forex, that side of financial markets, binary trading, all these things. You focus more on that because that is what the Forex gurus and the binary gurus will show you.
And that's what they're talking about even in the algorithm.
Exactly. Those are the things they will show you. That's what your TikTok algorithm will show you. They'll show you somebody, for example, in binary trading, in a deriv, putting like $10 in, and in like 5 minutes, the video is like 1 minute and 30 seconds, and they've already made $100. You're like, with just 1,000 shillings, I can make almost 10,000 in less than a minute. I'm going to do this. And then you don't know the nitty-gritties and the important things. So you end up even falling for scams and things like that.
Right.
Your fear of failure just drives you to make things that are not very clever.
Right.
Third thing is on your fear of success. I want to talk about these factors as you've mentioned them, because they are factors that unfortunately people do not pay a lot of attention to. People are afraid of success down because of the initial conversation that we had at the beginning, which is people have not been around money. So they don't know how to deal with money. They don't know how to make investments. They don't know how to be clever with how they do their things.
Right.
I think it's important for us to take these classes seriously, not going for a 4-year degree. Personally, I don't believe that we really need to do 4-year degrees. I don't think these things are important. I think all that information can be cramped up into like 2 years or 1.5, and we'll still have all that information. I think it's just an extension of us being in a controlled environment. I think the biggest thing that you learn from school is not even the information, it's a discipline. And once you're able to acquire this discipline, once you're able to look past the books and learn the discipline, then you're able to overcome these 3 factors. You're able to bypass this social conditioning, you're able to bypass this fear of success and failure, and you're able to become a much more successful individual because you're much more disciplined in how you do things, because it's all about systems, it's all about motivation.
All right, interesting. Absalom, because we are actually 3 minutes to exit. Shortly talk about debt, because I believe there's somebody who was saying at least a business or a person who's starting to do something, they'll either find their way in debt, themselves in debt. Even here we say, oh, ulizaliwa kwa deni. Yeah, most of us actually say that. We can even say Gen Z say, hatutaki kulipa deni yenye si yetu, tulizaliwa kwa hii deni. But now single-handedly, if you can point it to one individual and their life and their facets, at least you'll find yourself in debt. But then those that are already in debt crisis, how do you, say, clean and come up with a clean slate of a credit that can enable you even to get more? Because I believe the more cleaner the credit, or the better the credit, the more they go ahead to get other financial avenues that flow into you.
Yeah.
Maybe in a minute, because we're out of time.
Yes. So if you are in debt, first thing, it means you have been doing something wrong. You need to first get whatever you are having in order. If you can get what you are having in order, then you can worry about the debt, right?
Yeah.
Because it is all about long-term success. It's about something that will happen in the long run because of what you have been doing over time, right? So if you are in debt, first get your finances in order. Develop the discipline. How you do anything is how you do everything, right? Start developing because even as you're in debt, you can't say you're not getting any money in. It's just that you have this financial burden of paying off the debt, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Start managing that debt, right?
Start paying it off slowly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
To do that, have money allocated directly to paying off the debt, right? Don't go and borrow another debt. I discourage people from using loan apps and all that. I don't believe
digital
that.
lending apps.
Yeah.
They're landing people into crisis. We have to go, by the way, because we are out of time. So there's a meme here. It says current emotion is I need money. Another one says money doesn't bring happiness. Another one says pass me the money over here. I'd like to be sad. Another one says I'm stuck between a need to save money and you only live once. I think what you were mentioning about. So I think that whole facet is really imperative for young people. And I love the fact that you guys are talking about it. And we have to go your handles very fast and how anyone can get to be in touch with you.
Okay.
In 2 seconds.
Okay, on Instagram it's Ngosia, on FB it's Absalom Ngosia. It's just that.
Okay, what about you, Javan?
On LinkedIn you can reach me at Martin Javan. On Instagram, not Martin Javan.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I pray we have a part 2 of this conversation because it's really important here.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
And Happy New Year once again.
Happy New Year too.
All right. Thank you to you two for watching us from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll definitely see you tomorrow bright and early. And lastly, I have been speaking to Absalom Gusia. He's a financial advisor. You know where to find him alongside Martin Javan. He's a public speaking coach and many other things he does. And thank you so much at Brown Sakono at Y254 channel. See you tomorrow.